All right, ready for a deep dive.
Always.
Today we're jumping into Sharon W. Gibson's Making Healthy Choices That Meets Your Body Needs, Self-Love and Self-Care. You guys are obviously looking for some real-world advice on making healthier choices, embracing self-love, and Gibson blends personal stories with practical exercises in a way that really clicks.
It's that mind-body connection that really stands out for me in Gibson's work. Like, it's not just about positive thinking, right? It's about recognizing how deeply our thoughts and emotions impact our physical well-being.
Exactly. And she illustrates this perfectly with Miriam's story. Miriam's dealing with diabetes. And Gibson doesn't just say, oh, stress can make diabetes worse. She goes deep on how Miriam's anxieties, her worries about work, family, all of it, were actually showing up in her blood sugar levels.
And that's where it gets really interesting. Anyone can say stress is bad, but Gibson lays out the science behind it. Constant stress. Our bodies are pumping out cortisol. A little cortisol, that's fine, but chronic stress, that means elevated cortisol, and over time, that's a recipe for disaster. Inflammation, messed up digestion, and yeah, blood sugar goes haywire, just like with Miriam.
It's like our bodies are sending us a signal, but are we listening? Though listening to our bodies also means tuning into our hearts and minds, which brings us to Gibson's big idea, self-love.
And she's very clear. Self-love isn't about being vain or just indulging yourself. It's about recognizing your own worth, treating yourself with kindness and compassion, even with those flaws, those things we think are shortcomings.
I love how she uses being a twin to get this across. She and her sister identical, yet she highlights how different their personalities are, their paths in life. It reminds you that we are all unique, deserving of love and acceptance, and that starts with how we treat ourselves.
Absolutely. What's really interesting is how Gibson tackles the flip side. What happens when we don't practice self-love? She argues that a lot of our struggles, communication breakdowns, letting others define us, all of that comes from not accepting ourselves.
It's like we're practically inviting these challenges when we don't have that strong foundation of self-love. And her chapter on betrayal really hit home for me. She talks about Sandra, who finds out her husband's been unfaithful, completely devastated. Now, this might seem unrelated, but Gibson ties it all back to self-love, and it's brilliant.
That's pure Gibson right there. Deep thinking. She argues that self-compassion, that's what gets you through things like Sandra's going through. And you can be kind to yourself, understand yourself, even when you're betrayed, heartbroken. It stops you from spiraling into blame, resentment.
Exactly. It's not about saying what the other person did was okay. It's about your own healing. And Gibson makes a really important distinction here. Self-pity versus self-compassion.
Totally. Self-pity keeps you stuck. Self-compassion, that lets you acknowledge the pain, but it doesn't define you. It's that realization that we're all human, right? We make mistakes. We all go through tough times.
It's like that saying, we're all just walking each other home, reminds us we're in this together, especially when things are rough. But Gibson, she doesn't want us to just wallow. She pushes us towards growth. And self-reflection, she says, that's a big part of it.
Huge. And she doesn't mess around with those surface-level questions. Gibson wants us to go deep, like what kind of legacy do I want to leave, or what am I doing that's just not working for me anymore?
Those questions can be intense, but in a good way. Makes you stop, think about where your life's headed. Honestly, there were times I had to put the book down, just process. But here's the thing. Gibson doesn't leave you hanging with these huge existential questions. She gives you practical steps to actually align your actions, your values.
And that's what makes this book so great. It's not just theory, it's about giving you the power to change. Self-care as self-love. Not selfish, essential, she says. And she
Wow.
goes beyond the bubble baths, the face masks. Those are good too. But she's talking mental, emotional, even financial well-being.
Right. It's like she's saying self-love isn't pampering, it's taking charge of your life. Remember how she talked about wills, life insurance, not exactly light topics, but essential. Protecting yourself, your loved ones, that's real self-love.
Absolutely. It's that bigger picture thinking. Well-being means every part of your life. And this is where Gibson gets down to brass tacks. She's like, ask yourself what you need. But then, and this is key, actually listen to the answer.
Which is harder than it sounds, right? It's so easy to push your own needs aside, put everyone else first. But Gibson reminds us, you can't pour from an empty cup. You got to refill your own energy, your own resources. That's how you show up for yourself and for the people you care about.
I love that analogy. And if we're talking practical steps, Gibson delivers.
Big time. In chapter 6, she comes back to those legacy questions. But this time, it's about your habits. It's not enough to just know yourself, right? You have to use that knowledge to make changes, positive ones.
Exactly. Gibson's like, okay, What needs to go? What unhealthy habits can I let go of? And what do I need more of in my life? What healthy habits can I embrace? It's about recognizing those behaviors that aren't doing you any favors and swapping them out for ones that nourish your mind, body, and spirit.
And I appreciate that Gibson doesn't just give you these vague ideas like eat better, exercise more. She gives you real strategies, like
Yeah.
that SMART goal setting method. Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time bound. Remember those.
Oh, yeah, such a useful tool. Instead of saying, I want to lose weight, which is so general, right? A smart goal would be more like, I'm going to walk for 30 minutes 3 times a week and cut my soda intake in half. It's about breaking down these big, overwhelming goals into smaller steps that you can actually take.
It's like that saying, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. But knowing Gibson, she'd probably add, and don't forget to celebrate those milestones along the way. She's big on acknowledging your progress, even the small wins.
So true. It's so easy to fixate on what we haven't achieved yet and forget to appreciate how far we've come. Gibson reminds us that those small victories are important. They deserve to be celebrated because they reinforce our commitment to change and keep us going.
And she's real about it, too. She knows life throws curveballs, right?
Mm.
We're not perfect. We mess up sometimes. Then that's okay.
It's all about how you handle those setbacks. That's what matters. And Gibson's right there with you, reminding you that self-compassion is even more critical during those times. Instead of beating yourself up, approach those mistakes with curiosity and kindness. Ask yourself, okay, what can I learn from this?
Which leads us to Gibson's conclusion. And wow, talk about empowering endings. I think it's one of the best I've read in any self-help book.
Right. Really stuck with me too. She reminds us that disappointments, they're just part of life. It's what you do with them that matters.
Yes, she wants you to see those setbacks as opportunities, chances to grow and learn more about yourself. Not about pretending everything's fine, but finding the lesson in the struggle and using it to move forward, stronger and wiser.
She talks about turning those disappointments into stepping stones.
Yeah,
Powerful image, right? It suggests that even the toughest experiences, they have a purpose. They can teach us, make us stronger, and ultimately help us understand ourselves and the world around us so much better.
totally. It's like she's saying, okay, that happened. What are you going to do about it? Are you going to let it break you?
Yeah.
Or are you going to use it to become even stronger? And I think that's Gibson's biggest takeaway.
Mhm.
Self-love, making healthy choices, personal growth, it's a journey, not a destination, no finish line, no magic moment where you've got it all figured out.
Exactly. It's about embracing the whole journey, every twist and turn. Knowing you have the strength, the wisdom to handle whatever comes your way, and remembering to be kind to yourself along the way.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So to wrap things up, if you're looking for a practical, insightful, and compassionate guide to making healthy choices and cultivating self-love, Sharon W. Gibson's book is it. It's packed with useful advice, relatable stories, and those aha moments that'll stick with you long after you've finished reading. And on that note, until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep being amazing, big time.
Yeah.
In chapter 6, she comes back to those legacy questions, but this time it's about your habits.
Yeah.
It's not enough to just know yourself, right? You have to use that knowledge to actually make changes, positive ones.
Exactly. Gibson's like, okay, what needs to go? What unhealthy habits can I let go of? And what do I need more of in my life? What healthy habits can I embrace? It's about recognizing those behaviors that aren't doing you any favors and swapping them out for ones that nourish your mind, body, spirit, the whole shebang.
And I like that Gibson doesn't just give you these vague ideas like eat better, exercise more. She gives you real strategies.
Italy.
Like, remember that SMART goal setting method?
Oh, yeah.
Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time bound.
So good.
Remember those.
Yeah, such a useful tool. Instead of just saying, I want to lose weight, which is so general, a smart goal would be like, I'm going to walk for 30 minutes 3 times a week and cut my soda intake in half. It's about breaking down these big, overwhelming goals into smaller steps, something you can actually do.
Totally. It's like that saying, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. But knowing Gibson, she'd probably add in there, and don't forget to celebrate those milestones along the way. She's all about acknowledging your progress, even those small wins.
Oh, for sure. It's so easy to get caught up in what we haven't achieved yet and totally forget to look back and be like, wow, look how far I've come. Gibson reminds us that those small victories, those are important. They deserve to be celebrated. They actually reinforce our commitment to change and just keep us motivated.
Yeah, keep that momentum going.
Exactly.
And she's real about it, too. She knows life throws curveballs. We're not perfect, right?
Right.
We mess up sometimes, and that's okay.
Totally.
It's how we handle those setbacks, right? That's what really matters.
Yeah, yeah.
And Gibson's right there with you, reminding you that self-compassion, that's even more important during those times. So instead of beating yourself up over it, you approach those mistakes with curiosity, with kindness, and ask yourself, okay, what can I learn from this?
Exactly. Like, how can I grow from this experience?
Right.
Right.
Which leads us to Gibson's conclusion. And I gotta say, this is one of the most empowering endings to a self-help book that I can remember reading.
I know. It really stuck with me, too. She reminds us that disappointments are just part of life. Like, they're going to happen. It's what you do with them that matters.
It's that mindset shift, right?
Yeah.
She wants you to see those setbacks as opportunities, chances to learn, to grow, to discover more about yourself. And it's not about pretending everything's fine, right? It's about finding that lesson, the takeaway from the struggle, and then using that to move forward. Stronger, wiser, all of it.
She talks about turning those disappointments into stepping stones.
I love that.
Powerful imagery, right? Like, even those really tough experiences, they serve a purpose. They teach us. They can actually make us stronger, help us understand ourselves and the world around us so much better.
It's like she's saying, okay, that happened. What are you going to do about it? You going to let it break you, or are you going to use it to become even stronger? And that, I think, is Gibson's biggest takeaway. Self-love, healthy choices, personal growth, it's all a journey, not a destination. There's no finish line, no magic moment where you've got it all figured out.
You just got to embrace the whole journey, right? Every twist, every turn, knowing you've got the strength, the wisdom to handle it. And remember to be kind to yourself along the way. It's a process.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So if you're looking for a practical, insightful, and compassionate guide to making healthy choices and cultivating self-love, Sharon W. Gibson's book is it. It's packed with useful advice, relatable stories, and those aha moments that will stick with you long after you've finished reading. And on that note, until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep being amazing.